Hello and good afternoon. If you are joining us in Libreville, it's exactly 15:30 or 3:30 p.m. in Libreville and the Central African region. And welcome to today's episode of the 7th Round, a program that takes a look at issues on the continent. And my name is Joe Willie. We are discussing, as usual, two issues on the program. First is the President of Tanzania, John Magufuli, who said the country should be careful on coronavirus vaccine. And the second, when we came back on the second part, the government of Gabon has closed down 2 high schools in Libreville. With me to discuss this and is Jean-Michel. Jean-Michel.
Good morning, good afternoon, Mr. Willie, and good afternoon to all the viewers.
And Wayne Pendy.
Thanks for the invitation. Thanks.
Thank you for being with us. And we'll come back to discuss the Tanzania after this report.
Tanzanian President John Magufuli on Wednesday warned the country's health ministry against rushing to embrace COVID-19 vaccinations that were being promoted by foreign nations. Speaking during the launch of a public forest in Chato, Keita region, President Magufuli said any decision to adopt COVID-19 vaccine should not be taken lightly. The Ministry of Health should be careful. They should not hurry to try these vaccines without doing research. Not every vaccine is important to us. We should be careful. We should not be used as guinea pigs, Magufuli said. Vaccinations are dangerous. If the white man was able to come up with vaccination, he should have found a vaccination for AIDS, cancer, and TB by now. He directed the health ministry to only adopt vaccinations after they had been certified by Tanzania's own expert, citing an example of a country which he did not name, where girl children vaccinated against what was purported to be cervical cancer but ended up being infertile. President Magufuli urged Tanzanians to continue taking precautions, saying prayers and traditional medicine, including steam inhalation, were the way to deal with coronavirus. He reiterated that he will never impose a lockdown, insisting that Tanzanians will always be free to conduct their daily undertakings, including farming, which he said was part of physical exercises that ultimately drive the virus away.
Okay, welcome back. We are going to discuss the issue now. Jean-Michel,
Yes.
Let's take the word of the president. This is the president of a country talking now. He said the Minister of Health should be careful. They should not hurry to try this vaccine without doing research. Not every vaccine is important to us. We should not be used as guinea pig. Be careful not to be used as guinea pig. President Magufuli.
Well, caution is the main word here, Mr. Willie. This is the president of Tanzania going for caution. He wants his health minister to be cautious about all the 5 main vaccines which have been developed. And since we're all doubtful about it, I remember we talked about it a couple of weeks now on this very same table here, saying that the vaccine takes from 8 to 10 months, to 10 years to be developed. This one has taken, I think, less than a year. I mean, those ones have taken less than a year, so of course he has to be doubtful.
He has to be doubtful. Wendy, this is the president saying they should be careful so that the vaccine should not harm the population. Do you think the president is sending the right messages?
Right message, I don't know, but I know that it's in line with what he has been doing since the beginning of the pandemic. Remember, he's the one who rejected the Chinese kits, medicine kits, test and all the stuff, saying that when they tasted pawpaw and goats, it was positive at the end of the day. So he's still in this way of working, cautious approach.
Cautious approach. Vaccinations are dangerous. If the white man was able to come up with vaccination, he should have found a vaccination for AIDS, cancer, TB. Now, this is a fact here. I will agree with him. Up to now, we have not have a vaccine for AIDS, cancer, and tuberculosis.
Yes, it does make sense. For some people, it's just a matter. It's a matter of big money here, and unfortunately, this is how some people view actually the whole World Health Organization. Personally, I still don't understand why we have vaccines now. And second, some Africans are still doubting about vaccines being implemented into their countries because we don't have the death toll that Europe has. We don't have the death toll that America has. So we don't see the point. And we're talking about Tanzania here. Up to here, only 51 dead people has been declared officially. Because again, it's been 6 months now that they've gone for the update of the disease. So there's no rush for a vaccine here. I don't think there is any kind of rush for a vaccine.
Yes, Pendy, when you look at the diseases that he mentioned, AIDS, cancer, and tuberculosis, and you look at the rates of infection and death, nobody declared a state of emergency for AIDS. No country declared state of emergency for cancer and tuberculosis. But here we are, coronavirus, every country afraid. Don't you see the need, the rapid need to go for a vaccine? Rather than
that's actually a point, and I think his declaration can even be taken to a political stage. You see, here he states that what's most important for us are these diseases that he has been citing, and not only coronavirus. When we take into account the figures that Jean-Michel has been just done, you just consider the importance of finding solutions against these diseases that we got here in Africa for ages, and not coronavirus first.
Yeah, he still asks the Tanzanian to take precaution, prayers, and traditional medicine, the way to deal with coronavirus.
Well, this man is a pastor, which I do respect. I mean, I do respect him for the fear he has for God, but he rules a country, so he has to be scientific at a certain point. That's one. And second, Mr. Willie, this week actually, in Norway, they say that 23 elderly people who got vaccinated died.
Well,
it took 6 days, yes, for Pfizer Moderna, because they were vaccinated for Pfizer Moderna vaccine. It took them 6 days to react and saying that it's not Pfizer Moderna that those people were vaccinated. It just doesn't make sense, because if it's not Pfizer Moderna, then clearly it's slander for people who went saying that it's Pfizer Moderna. And for such a big film, reacting 6 days after, it's very fishy here.
In fact, the reactions when one takes the vaccine sometimes has been deadly. But let me take a case here that if you take chloroquine and Quinimax, sometimes you react based on your body.
You react, you don't die.
Yes, of course, people may not die. But in the case of vaccine here, I read from several experts, Dr. Fauci of the United States, he said that there are a set of people that shouldn't be vaccinated if vaccine is available. So if we do not honor that kind of medical expert opinion and go on to get vaccine, where people supposed not to take it, it could be deadly.
Sure, it could be deadly, and that's once more the importance that reminds us the importance of being cautious.
Very cautious.
When he says it, I think at the end of the day, the objective is to not let his people be, the trial vaccine subjects.
Exactly.
You see, so
exactly.
At the end of the day, that should be
But all said and done, we still have. South Africa is going to get vaccine. Egypt has acquired one today, if I'm correct. And many other countries have already asked for this vaccine. Where are we now? And then the other day, we heard about the South African chief judge who also denounced the vaccine. How do we balance this? Where do we find a level ground for vaccine and to disabuse our mind against all this?
Yeah, in my opinion, South Africa and Egypt do need a strong and straight, fast solution. Those two African countries have been hit by coronavirus. It's reality in these countries. They're talking about thousands of dead people. So they clearly need a strong, something strong. If it's a vaccine, then be it, so be it. But for African countries like Gabon, Senegal, Tanzania, which we're talking about right here, there's no rush for a vaccine.
no rush.
No, definitely not.
But they have to take precaution. We are talking about precaution.
Yes, well, I think what the measures that have been implemented, I think Mr. Penny will be are cautious enough. I think he'll agree with that. Yeah. It's cautious enough.
So even when you take the case of Tanzania, no curfew. No.
Yes, he said he's not going to impose a curfew.
No confinement.
People should go back because even when you go to the farm and do your farming, you come out, that is exercising will help to drive away coronavirus. Do you think exercising can chase away coronavirus?
Well, we still need to know exactly how this virus proceeds. Now we're talking about 2 variants that came right after the original one. So there's still a lot of studies to be done. There's still a lot of studies to be done about it.
Yeah, still a lot of studies to be done, and we need to be cautioned. Let's get your last word before we move on to the next.
My last word, I don't know if it's the right way to act so as a president, but he's defending his, what he has in his mind for his people. And I think that's what we have to respect at the end of the day.
Yes, Jean-Michel.
I totally agree with President John Magufuli. His death toll doesn't push him into any rush decision. And he's the president of Tanzania. He doesn't have to be pushed into a certain, vaccine decision. So, yes, I respect
Okay, he's the president of Tanzania and is leading his people well. Let's hope so. Let's hope Tanzania would not be like South Africa or Zimbabwe. Yeah. We are not praying for it. I think that's it for the first menu of this discussion. Tanzanian president asking the health ministry of his country to be careful in choosing the vaccine because it could be dangerous for the population. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We now move on to the next discussions on the table, which is this weekend, the Gabonese Minister of Education sanctioned 2 high schools in Libreville, that is Omabungo Technical School and Ovendo Secondary School for misconduct and violent behavior. We will discuss it in details after this report.
To the Minister of National Education that this department wanted to react to the school violence that occurred in the town of Ovendo. Indeed, in the middle of the day, public opinion was shocked by the dissemination of a video on social networks showing clashes between students of the Omabungo Technical High School and those of the Ovendo High School. According to the ministry's press release, these serious incidents will result from the judicial hearings of the learners responsible for obscene videos made in uniform within schools. Protest that would have led to the confrontation between the students of the 2 schools, which resulted in disturbing public order and caused destruction of the school's facilities, thus disrupting rehabilitation work in progress. Faced with this 10th incident, which the Omabungo Technical School is accustomed to, the ministry has therefore decided to crack down. Thus, the Minister of National Education, Patrick Mugiama Dauda, has decided to close the Omabungo National Technical High School and the Ovendo Secondary School until further notice, announcing in passing the opening of an investigation to establish responsibilities and take appropriate action.
Pendy, let me begin with you. What do you think might prompted this student to engage in such indecent and immoral dance challenge, which eventually prompted the incident that we have seen here, which made the government to crack down on the school?
We have thousands of reasons. The government is always, putting first the education of the parents at home. There is at school, a lack of activities, socio-educational activities in which students can be engaged while they are free. They're always free. You see the new timetables, they have free time. And they're doing nothing. So you're doing nothing. You have no examples of what you should do. Nothing is proposed to you. At the end of the day, we cannot be surprised that they engage in challenges that have no sense, and we see the results at the end of the day.
Yes, Jean-Michel, do you think because they have a spare, a free period, let me call it that way, on their timetable, that could have pushed them to go into indecent exposure, twerking, doing all that immoral act, which a student with the uniform, honestly, let us be also honest to ourselves, cannot do this kind of rubbish.
Of course, this is rubbish, as you said. But Mr. Willie, straightforward, I want to say one thing. The situation that Gabon is living, I'd sum it up as like government, like youth. The government has been neglecting its youth, this youth, for the past 10 years now, I think, and this is the result. Remember, I think 10 years ago, we had a carnival here with transgenders coming from Brazil, walking almost bare naked on the streets of Libreville at night. It was shown on TV. Those very same kids saw it, and today I think they think it's their turn. So this is a government which is punishing its youth for misconduct. There was misconduct. I saw some videos, yes. It is
of course, the government have to punish students for their misconduct. If I am a student, I remember all of us were a student. I had my free timetable. That does not make me to engage in indecent act. Instead, I have to take my book, see how I can cover the area that I could not have been able to cover. I'm not waiting for the teacher or the government to create a forum for me. I mean,
this was because the chances were given to you, Mr. Willie. We used to go to schools with libraries and facilities, as he put it in his very own words. But today, those kids don't have libraries anymore. If there is a library, then it's so old with 1960s books, for example. The books are not updated, and there are so many lacks.
You see,
so many lacks.
There's a point which is, what is condemned here is not the only fact, a simple fact of dancing or twerking. They do it at home. They can do it when they're at home. Because no, at the end of the day, what is condemned here is the fact that they're doing with their uniforms in their schools. That is what is punished. But you see videos of artists twerking all the time. You see challenges, ikoku dance, moving the shaking the ass. It's always happening, you know.
But high class people, exactly.
Okay, as a student, must I engage in dancing? Why not mathematics challenge? Why not English challenge? Why not chemistry challenge, which is more productive to a student that is learning rather than a dance challenge?
For the simple reason that students are, first of all, babies. They're supposed to be our sons and daughters. So they're supposed to be educated and they're supposed to be shown the ways to do. And at the end of the day, when they don't...
Does that mean that the family values has collapsed? Is that what we are saying?
Clearly, this is what we unfortunately observing. Family values have collapsed. And like I said again, like government, like youth. This youth has seen its government.
Look, Jean-Michel, I understand.
Penalizing adultery.
Government in any country comes from the family.
Exactly.
We have, first of all, our family education, which is the parental education.
Yes.
Then we have education that we acquired in school. And we also have the other one that we acquired in street.
Yes.
But when you look at these three types of education, you realize that the street education seems to overwhelm the family.
It does.
And why?
And why is it like that?
The fact that it happens at school tells us a lot. It speaks volumes about what is happening.
So what is the supervision at the school then?
It's not only at home, but at school.
I mean at school, yes.
It could have spread from home, but not from home, it's from school. Which means that we have to question the school life of students. There are parts in the Ministry of Education supposed to work on, gathering the good facilities for this school life.
I will still talk about the supervisions in school. Why do we allow? Because a school must have rules and regulations. Must learners go to school enter classes with telephone if they are not using it for research work? So
well, maybe not, but it's a whole, I don't know, it is a whole hurly-burly in Libreville right now. Are bars supposed to be around schools? Definitely not.
No.
It's only in Libreville that you see this. There's a high school here, and it's all surrounded with pubs and nightclubs and bars and etc. And the government doesn't say anything. So at the end, like I said again, you can't, this youth reflects their parents, they reflect the government.
Of course, the youth reflects the parents. That's why I'm saying, as the family values completely collapse, that we cannot I don't know how many students, because I look at my children's bag.
Well,
whenever they come back from school, I have to check their bags. I have to check what have they learned in school. I have to ask them. It is not applicable to other parents that you have to check what your children are doing.
Some parents have just decided to drop their responsibilities. At some extent, we have to accept that. But again, the government is just... I mean, the government is not an example, Mr. Willie. As he said it, we've seen people, member of parliament, dancing and twerking just like them in their own private thing, and sometimes at campaigns, for example. So it's, if you're not an example to your child, don't expect your child to, I don't know, your child reflects you.
Yes,
and this is what he said.
Yes,
of course, we have to blame the parents, or some parents, for this result that we can see today. But we should not neglect the role of the government. When you take Article 17 of the Gabonese Constitution, you see, it's written the states has the obligation to protect the youth against moral, intellectual, or physical...
Thank you very much for that. That is a very serious matter. But here in Gabon, the music that you listen to is so indecent that...
But Mr. Willie, the government has the power to censor.
I'm part of an association, Secretary General of the Link Association, which is meant to promote English clubs in Gabon. We do promote English clubs, but when you come to the club, you see that sometimes there is no people at the club. Sometimes, even the school headmaster is not encouraging people to go to the club.
Yes.
At the Ministry of Education, each year there is a budget dedicated to social educational activities in schools. But this money never arrives. That never reach the people who are supposed to.
But if government has approved the money, so when can we question? Because this is what will engage the children.
But the role of the government is to follow up.
And if you allow me, Mr. Pendy, sometimes those kids are pushed into political meetings, so they can't attend their English club, for example. You see, so
because not only English club, we should have mathematics. This is what we have not seen in some of the.
This is the reality.
On the television.
What is the reality of this country?
We not actually engage the children.
Right now, we're not just blaming the government. We're also giving some pieces of advice. That's what can happen.
Yes.
You can have you have to bring your modest contribution to the building.
Exactly.
To give options to the young people so that they know what to do in their free time when they're at school and not working.
That's not working. Not mathematics challenge.
Mr. Willie, we laugh in here, but we all parents, I think, he's a parent to me if he's not yet. And we all concerned with this. We live in Gabon. It's a serious matter. Mr. Pendy, we show in the finger, we point in the regime of Gabon, because it's them which has decided to close the schools. We know as parents, I know as a parent that I should do more for my kids, and that I accept. I sometimes don't do enough, and that I have my responsibility to play. But for them to close the school because I don't know.
But should they have engaged in that violence? Because the student, what I understand is because the students of the other school were not arrested. The government is still
because they all went for the challenge, and some have been punished and not the others. That's the reason.
It has not been punished yet because the investigation is still ongoing.
Exactly. But why closing the school then?
They have to, because that violent behavior is...
No, they quote, I think, 5
On a serious note, they
quote 5 girls, I think.
On a serious note, without being biased, the lycée technique has been so notorious for all these years.
Yes, exactly. It's not the first time.
So what is the problem with the management of the school that they cannot tame the student?
No, I think that's now cultural. When you come to the school, you are initiated by this, and it's not only in the school that they do it. It has a whole history, and they're used to seeing stuff of the kind over there.
Yes,
so even if you put a new headmaster, it'll
be difficult for him to manage it properly. Yes,
I don't have
difficult to manage to control the children.
Yes, because it's a huge school. It's a huge school, Mr. Willie. I think they're about 10,000. It's the biggest school in Gabon, I think. I think they're about 10,000.
If it is 10,000, the school must have a strategy to make sure the students are controlled. Look, there is no society that people cannot look at what is happening today. We have this COVID-19, and the government has put measures to check every citizen, not to do.
If you address that matter to the headmaster, I think he'll tell you he doesn't have enough money. So
does he need money to discipline
to secure the school? Yes,
so what is the discipline then in the school campus, if I may ask? There's no measures of this, because I understand.
Well, maybe
you cannot apply.
Maybe the school needs more staff. Let's say maybe the school needs more staff. Where does it get the money to pay those people?
Is it the one that to pay, or the government?
Same thing. If they're not public servants, then he's supposed to pay those people.
I quite agree with this decision to close the school for a little while, probably some days, because if the school was still open, we could have assisted the same things again. So today, what is maybe too heavy as a punishment is the attacks against the girls who have been twerking in the videos.
On videos, yes.
Now there are lawsuits against them, and that's why the guys have been going on street.
Yeah, and marching.
Yes,
and they have the right to do so. It's like a child telling his dad that why don't you want me to smoke? You smoke yourself, And this regime, yes, of course, and this regime has been going for homosexuality and adultery, legalizing those things, and now we prohibit kids to do what they want. Come on.
Former Prime Minister and presidential election candidate Don Sima,
yes,
I read it this morning. He said a too heavy penalty for a fault generates another fault. You see, we have to educate our children.
Children, yes.
Honestly.
But the education is not only punishment. It also goes through the providing the students solutions, what they need to...
Well, let me get your last word, because we are finally coming to the end. We still need to discuss this.
The last word is that this regime created the youth we're seeing now. This is the last word, and if we want to change our kids, we need to set the right path when it comes to how we behave and the laws we pass, and it revolves around all of this.
Bendy.
Yeah, my last word would be: let us not punish when we don't, propose solutions to the youth. They have to be busy at school, not have this free time in which they do nothing interesting.
Yeah.
You see, so. That's my point.
Well, the government must have to step up the discipline in every aspect of our school, and even in our society. What kind of song do we hear? What is the problem? Understand that our society wants to collapse, and things that we have not seen before is cropping up. I hope the government is listening. Measures, discipline must have to be applied. Hope to see you next Sunday, and we hope to discuss more on issues that affect us on the continent. Do have a wonderful day. See you again.